Welcome to another episode of the Dare Model Railroad Club. And today, a lot of people ask, like, what is model railroading? And so today we thought we'd give you a little view of what model railroading is. We're going to show you a lot of different layouts and different scales, different gauges, different types, and hope you enjoy this. Okay, the first layout we have here that we're going to show you is this is what we call our kids layout. This has three separate ovals of track. There are a few switches here, but we really don't use them. But there's three ovals here. That way, three different kids can run trains at the same time. We have different controls. There's three different controls, and we have them separated so they're not fighting over them. And we have a bunch of different trains that the kids can run here. We have diesel, we have steam, we have all kind of stuff here. And the other thing about this layout is these modules, each one of these was made by one of our members. And they put them together. They learned how to build this with one of our members, Scott Schnabel, who has been a contractor for an awful long time. And so each kid got to do a little work with a drill, with cutting things, and putting them together. And the kids then also decorated them. They actually painted these backdrops. We had a gentleman come in from the McMurray Art League and show them how to do that. And then all this track was laid. And this is really just for all the kids, our younger kids, usually from about 5 to 8 or 9 or so. They'll come in here and they will run these trains, and they can run everything they want here. One of the things with this layout, this is only a DC layout. The trains work by turning the throttle up or down, increasing the voltage, which increases the speed. And it's just a fun layout for them to come in and run. A lot of our kids bring in their own trains to run, and they really like doing that because a lot of them don't have anything this big they can run on. All the trains for this layout are right on these shelves here, which again, Scott built. And these are all the locomotives, freight cars, passenger cars that the kids can use on this layout. The idea is they get one off, they put it back. That doesn't always happen, but we try to get them to do that. But all these are made for the younger kids to play with. Here is another one of our layouts. This is what we would call a traditional toy train layout. A lot of people would see something like this at Christmas time. A couple of our members spent a lot of time building this. Not only do we have the two trains running, but we also have things like the gate, and we have the signals. The crossing gates go up and down. So it adds a lot of fun for the people that watch this. And this is all Lionel type track, and this is what you would call the standard Lionel track, the one that people have used for many, many, many years. The houses on here, most of them are the plastic built houses that most people would remember when we have our open house and people come in. It's really neat to see them going, oh, hey, my dad had that, or I remember that from when I was a kid. So this is kind of a layout that brings back a lot of nostalgia for people. So this is our toy train layout. Here's another layout that we have. This right now is temporary. We have a gentleman building an N-scale layout, but he's helping with that. But this is a little different. This layout is a pre-war layout, pre-war. These are all the things that were made before World War II. This Zephyr here, that's actually an American Flyer 3-rail, runs on the same track as Lionel. This is actually a March train from 1935, 36. For some reason, during those couple years, that's when Lionel and American Flyer both made these streamlined trains. It was like the thing of the future. Again, we have the plastic built houses. These cars that are on the street, the plastic cars, they're all from way back then. So this is kind of the layout that shows what Christmas was probably like for a lot of people before even World War II.
So what we have here is what's referred to as the American Flyer trains. These are basically the same as Lionel, except they run with 2-track. Lionel runs with 3 tracks. The buildings you see are basically plastic fill. Plastic fill was used for both Lionel and American Flyer. And the way they made the scale work was that the doors, all the doors on plastic fill houses are made to the scale for Lionel, with the building itself made to scale for American Flyer. This would be like a 3/16 of an inch equals a foot train. It's scaled that way. What I have is 3 trains running, which are basically a steam engine. You have a passenger train, and then we have another freight train here. Like I said, this would be basically your traditional Christmas time layout. I have a park there that I just sat there. That's an HO scale showing a park with the swing sets and the seesaw and the tilt or the twirl, and that's just so the kids can see what's going on. That's American Flyer. The HO scale ones are out in the lobby. You'll probably see those later. And what I'm trying to do right now is get this system to work so the kids can just push buttons. They don't have to worry about controlling the speed, because you saw what happened before we started taping. The train flew off the tracks.
This Venetia Steel Company layout was a donation from a fellow that had the layout in his garage for probably 15 years. Never was set up. It was leaning against the wall. The builder of the layout had died, and the lady that, or his wife, had given it away. So we think that it was built probably 30 to 35 years ago. It is a very accurate layout made by this fellow who had to know a lot about steel mills. Either he worked in a steel mill or he worked for a steel company. It was a very accurate likeness of a steel mill. Has the blast furnace, the open hearth furnaces, the soaking pits, the Bessemer converter, which is what made steel from the blast furnaces. There are other little details in this that you have to look pretty close to see the detail. It was apparently written up in one of the local newspapers, in the Pittsburgh Press or the Post-Gazette or the Sun Telly many years ago, valued at about $10,000 at that point. So this was a nice donation that we had to work over a little bit to get it running again. But we certainly appreciated it. And the kids enjoy running this one also.
This layout is a little different. It's called a shelf layout, and it emulates a prototype railroad because it goes just from point to point rather than going in a big loop like some of our other layouts do. This layout was built while we had one of our other bigger layouts under construction, so that we would have something for the kids to operate. There are some of the kids that like to operate prototypically and do some switching, build trains and take them to another location. So over here we have the yard with trains that have come in theory, from another railroad. And we'll pick up our train and we'll take it over to some industries that are out along the rest of the main line. As we run along the main line of the shelf layout, the train comes along and we have another industrial area where we will switch out cars. We stop the train and we can pull it ahead and back it into the industry to pick up some what would be, quote, empty cars. This layout is controlled by a digital command system, so it's a little different than the traditional loop layouts that have a transformer on them. And this is a little more prototypical, where we can shift the cars, pick up the rest of the train, and then we go on to our next amount of business. Another signature seen on this shelf layout is the coal mine. So in another train, we would bring the empty hoppers in and get ready to move them into the mine. But first we have to go in and pick up the loaded cars and pull them back out to make room for the empties. So this shelf layout was used so that we would have something for the kids to operate while we had our major layout under construction.
Okay, this is strictly line nail. We have a line nail control here. We can control from here to make the whistle blow. And over here, this was donated by Pete. It was like one section, and we'll go around to the other side. We did all the scenery, some normal scenery like you would see on the regular railroad track. Now, all these houses over here. There's another coming on right now. And you can see up on the shelves up there all the older trains that were donated over the time. And over here, we have like a train yard. What we can do, but you don't fall. Over here. Over here we can put this track up here and we can run trains all over into the train yard and all over the track here. And strictly this is all line nail.
Another layout we have, this is not our biggest layout, but these are the biggest trains we have. This is a G-scale layout. Thanks to one of our township residents, Russ. His wife called me one day, Lucy, and said, hey, want to get rid of Russ's trains? And I'm like, does Russ know that? And she said yes. So we went over there, and these trains can actually run outside. They're called G-scale. A lot of people call them garden scale trains, but these are the biggest trains we have. They still run with the DC power, the throttle up, faster it goes. But this layout, we have 3 different trains on it. 2 can run at a time. Plus, as we see coming here, we have our little doodle bug that runs back and forth and drops things off. And you can see these cars are huge. This is a scale passenger car, and it's over 2 feet long. And you can, if you look inside, you can actually see the seats and everything. This one has little lamps on each table, so they're pretty incredible. And one of our kids that came in here, one of our actually adult now members that used to be a kid member, he really fell in love with these, and he designed this, built it with Bryan here. And so a lot of people find this very interesting because on these box cars, the doors actually open. They have a little latch. If they're refrigerator cars, for an ice car, you can open that up and you can actually see down there. A lot of the doors open on these cars. A lot of these different doors will open and close. So a lot you can do with it, but it does take up a lot of space. Like I said, this track can be used outside. A lot of people I know several people in this area that have garden trains, garden railroads, and they run them all year round. And part of the hardest thing is just keeping the track clean when it's outside. Even inside we have to clean them, so outside would be a little more. But these are by far the biggest trains we have. Here we are with our largest in size layout, and this is also kind of special because this is what we started with many, many years ago when we started the club. This is the Montour layout. This is at least the third version of the Montour, and this by far is the most scale. We are now standing in Coraopolis at Montour Junction, and this is where the Montour kept all their locomotives. They have the engine house and everything. This is where the coal trains would have come in. This right here is the scale house where all the cars would have been weighed because coal went by weight. So this is where it would have all started. And so this is where we're going to begin our journey here on the Montour. All right, so our train is leaving Champion, and now this layout is 2 decks. We're going to follow the train on the lower deck. We might not follow this the whole way, but we're going to take a quick overview of the layout. In another episode, we plan on doing a more detailed view of this layout. This is obviously a work in progress and needs a lot more done to it, but everything is running now. And we come around the end of the peninsula here. And now this area here is out in Robinson. This is where Wick's was. Wick's Furniture used to be right down here. I think it's a Home Goods or something like that now. But that's out in Robinson by the Parkway, on the Parkway West. This is actually the Parkway West Bridge over here. And then one of the neat industries that was around for a long time was Briggs and Tervis. They actually scrapped railroad locomotives and cars and everything, even back in the steam engine era. So that's our next area here, and we are going railroad east as we follow along here. Our first tunnel here, and there's a photo of the actual train coming out of the tunnel. And as we come around our second peninsula, we come to a different kind of coal mine. This would be where coal was mined, brought here by trucks, and then dumped into the hopper cars. And as we continue here, you'll see there's a lot of other things laying around here because all the kids that run here, they all have their favorites. But this is called Boggs Yard. This was the staging yard for one of the more impressive, without a doubt, the biggest and most impressive building here. This is Champion Coal Plant. Just real quickly, what this was, the Montour would bring loaded trains of coal here. They would shove them up this track. They would shove them all the way up, and a guy, one of the workers for the coal plant, would actually ride each car down into this coal dumper, and the whole car would turn, get dumped, and then by gravity again it would ride down. But this is actually a scale model of the Champion prep plant. So this is a very realistic looking building, and the tracks are set up almost in exactly the way they were for real. And as we keep going here, here's going back probably to the 40s or 50s, a Norfolk and Western steam locomotive. This locomotive could have never ran on the Rail Montour, but it runs here. But our next area, and this is one of my favorite scenes, up to the McDonald Viaduct. This is McDonald siding. We have our Montour locomotive with the coal hoppers coming with us, and it's going to cross the viaduct here, just as a lot of Montour trains did for many, many, many years. And this is obviously the longest bridge on the Montour, and pretty impressive. If you ride your bike over there or take a walk over there, it is a very impressive place when you stand up there and look down. And as he crosses that, we're going to come in to the area called Southview, which is off 980. And Southview was an interchange with the Pittsburgh and West Virginia Railroad. And as we continue east on the main line, we're coming up to Gilmore Junction. Gilmore Junction is a place where a branch went off and ran up to Gilmore Mine. And so one of the coal mines that lasted on the Montour. But we're going to follow our train on the main line. And we're actually going to head towards Muse, which a lot of people in this area know about Muse. Now, our train is going up a pretty steep grade. We had to make that so that it can get to the second level. Now, here is the Gilmore Mine. These tracks are arranged very similar to how the real tracks were arranged. And actually, when you bring a coal train here, there are certain rules you have to follow. And because the locomotive can't fit under the coal tipple and things like that. But again, we have a lot of things that are standing in right now, and a lot more work needs to be done. But now we're coming up around the bend, coming towards Muse Junction. And what a lot of people probably do not realize is a lot of mines had a loaded yard and an empty yard. You had the empty yard for the coal hoppers that were empty, the loaded ones so they could be where they were loaded and then they were pulled out from. Now, Muse at one time was a coal mine, but in later years it was actually like a chemical, they would take chemicals and kind of break them down and make them so they could be reused again. Now, on our layout, the train actually kind of changes direction. Instead of going from right to left, going east, we're now going to be going from right to left to continue east. Our train has gone through an area after Muse siding here, Cowden siding, and now it's going into Greer's Tunnel, which again is a place in Peters Township. And there's Greer's Bridge where it crosses over where the Pennsylvania Railroad is. Goes over Chartiers Creek. And now we're coming through Camp's Cut. And now it's coming up Valley Brook Road. These hoppers in the foreground are from the Pennsylvania Railroad. And this came off the Chartiers branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad. This is a model of Montour 4, which is along Valley Brook Road. This, where the train is right now, would be where the bike trail is, Montour Trail. And you can actually still walk on that. There's now Montour crane there, and also a caboose that is painted to look somewhat like a Montour caboose. Now we're coming into Thompsonville siding. This is up on Valley Brook Road. We would have just crossed under Route 19, somewhere right around here. And as we go around the bend here, one of the things we did, we hid the track after the east switch of Thompsonville siding so it wouldn't interfere with the Champion Prep plant below. Now our train's on the second deck of the layout, and it's now coming into Library Y, which again, this is on the bike path in Peters Township. And we are actually going on the Library branch down to Montour 10, which is was a coal mine down on in Library, which used to be the Bureau of Mines had their testing facility down there and everything, and it's and now it goes. Now they're building apartments and all kind of luxury living places down there. But where all that's being built used to be Montour 10, which we have a model of. This is crossing the Library Road crossing, which That's 88 on the bottom there, and the trolleys used to go underneath one side, Route 88 on the other. You can still see the Montour on the bridge, on the real bridge. And now we're coming into Montour Junction, or I'm sorry, Montour Mine number 10. And another big mine on the railroad, Montour 10, Montour 4, were two mines that lasted very long and on the Montour, which you'll probably see real photos of them on one of the episodes that Bryan Seip's doing on the history of the Montour. And after we pass Montour 10, it continues down to what the Montour Railroad called Snowden. And this was another interchange. This was the interchange with the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad down in Snowden. And going on this leg of the Y, this was the end of the line for the Montour as far as going on the library branch. Well, I hope you enjoyed the layout tours that we have here at the Venetia Heritage Society Building here in the Dare Model Railroad Club. I think most people, when they see what is actually here, they are very surprised. We are open every Wednesday from 3 to 6 after school, where anybody's invited, anybody can come visit. We're also open on Saturday mornings from 9 till noon. Kids can bring their own trains. They can use the trains we have here, whatever works. Obviously, as you can see, we have layouts in just about everything you can imagine. Just recently, we were sent some very small trains, Z scale, which is one of the smallest trains there is. We don't have anything for that yet, but we'll probably be doing something with that. But I hope you really enjoyed this visit, and please come down and visit. We'll look forward to some more videos coming up. We got a lot more planned for the Dare Model Railroad Club. Thanks for watching.